once again, Kathleen DeMars and Barb Bernardi. And they're obviously ready to go in a very coming to you live from Waubonsee Community College. Math in the Flex Classroom. Thank you, and take it away.
So we can see that. They see. Give us a thumbs up if you see a pink screen that says Math in the Flex Classroom on it.
Not yet.
Not yet. Mike, are you still sharing?
I stopped sharing.
Okay. There we go.
There we go.
Excellent. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I see a few of you are still jumping on. I love the thumbs up. Thank you so much. I hope you've had a good lunch, like Mike said, or maybe you're enjoying one now. I'll never know because your computer cameras are off and you're muted. So those are the perks of virtual conferencing. A conference from home. Pretty wild, right? Probably not your first one at this point. My name is Kathleen DeMars, and as of this presentation today, I am a credentialed math specialist, along with my incredible colleague here, Barb. I currently teach math at the NRS 3 level, and I frankly think it is the best job ever. If you're sitting here with me, I hope you share that sentiment. And like all of you, I'm not just a teacher, I'm a parent. I have 2 girls. I'm an avid Peloton rider, if any of you are Peloton dorks like me. And I am a cat lady, not a crazy one, but I like them enough to make them the cover of each and every one of my Canvas tiles in my learning management system. So hello to all my fellow cat people out there. So welcome. You probably teach math too, but if not, don't worry, this presentation is perfectly appropriate for you as well. It's really great for everyone, instructors of all genres, and administrators too. In fact, I really hope that there are some administrators out there with us today. Thank you especially to our Dean, Adam Schauer, here at Waubonsee Community College for very unceremoniously throwing us into the Flex Classroom environment, thereby creating the content for the presentation that you are about to ingest and digest. Just kidding. We are genuinely grateful that Adam recognized that this equipment was available just 1 floor below where we all typically teach, and beat down the doors to give us access to be the first 2 teachers in our adult education department to pilot this amazing technology. Full disclosure, Barb and I have only been using this technology since January. So we are very green and we're very new at it, but we are such strong proponents for it, and we've seen it work wonders in just the time since we came back from our winter break. I have to say, we're genuinely grateful to have the experience these last few months learning to use this game-changing technology, and it's pretty cool to be standing before you as female math teachers giving a presentation about innovative technology during Women's History Month. So to all of the female instructors out there watching, we see you and we are cheering you on, and you are doing a great job. So thank you, Adam, for seeing the value in your team and opening the door for opportunities like this one.
Hey, thank you. My name is Barb Bernardi, and I teach at Waubonsee also, and I teach math here and at the College of DuPage. I've been in the adult education arena for 9 years. Previous to that, I was a public school teacher in 3rd grade. When I started at Waubonsee, I taught the healthcare bridge, and then I transitioned to math, and I have been there ever since. I absolutely love math. I have 2 college-age sons. They are attending 2 different ISUs. I've got one at Illinois State and one at Iowa State. So I am a new empty nester. For some reason, I seem to be just as busy or more busy without my children, although of course they're just a text and a phone call away. I am looking forward to some warm weather, and I like to get outside, walk, bike, enjoy my gardens. hopefully take a family vacation soon. That is definitely we've been waiting for. So we are going to start with an overview, just to let you see what we are planning to talk about today. The title of our presentation is Math in the Flex Classroom. If you are a reading teacher or you teach ELA or anything else, you are absolutely in the right place. The Flex Classroom is designed for all levels, all content area, and adult education. Kathleen and I teach math, so we do have some math connections that we do want to share, but please know that you can use these strategies in the classroom. So before we begin, we're going to start with some new vocabulary, some terminology that was unknown to us pre-COVID and now sits in the center of our lives. We're going to discuss some math insights that we discovered as we entered this new Flex Classroom environment. We're going to share strategies that have helped us navigate this new instruction. And then we're going to share some personal reflections with you and take a few minutes to answer your questions. So to start off, Kathleen is going to talk about where this all started, which is before our pandemic.
All right, before the pandemic, can we even remember that long ago? It's hard to believe that we've been through this over a year now. So before the pandemic and the great before, most of our campuses were offering full face-to-face classes without or with very limited access to online courses. Those online courses were often likened to the Wild West of adult education. And if you were one of those teachers who was perhaps participating in them before March of 2020, then you were really a pioneer in that arena. But for the most part, those remote offerings pre-COVID were the Wild West. Do what you can to keep students engaged in learning and earning those coveted attendance hours, right? The onset of COVID-19 threw us into a tailspin where we were forced to meet our students' needs in a crisis situation. Let's not mince words there. A crisis situation. COVID created a public health emergency, but it also created an educational emergency. Any administrators sitting with us today are likely nodding their heads in agreement. It was pretty nuts. Now, just over a year later, we're still in that same crisis. But we, and you are included in that collective we, have found ways to pivot and adapt, and we have done so masterfully. Give yourself a pat on the back for the way you've been able to continue educating a very high risk and gig job dependent population during a massive and ongoing crisis. It is no small feat and you should be incredibly proud of yourself. And it's important to remember that this is continuing. It's not post-COVID yet, it's still COVID. The adult education environment had a moment of pause where we weren't quite sure how to progress. If your college is anything like ours here at Waubonsie, the world shut down during spring break. And spring break got a little bit longer, like a month longer. When classes resumed, if they resumed for you, you definitely did not have the same parameters that you had when classes had started up in January, right? Your new priority was to engage and retain and do it however you could. I had a Weebly page where I had asynchronous learning going on. While we circled the wagons and relied on one another for ideas, innovations, and instructional support, our administrators were making decisions about how to invest and pivot to the best serve the needs of our adult learners and the credit learners at large. The truth of the matter is that the investments our colleges and programs have made towards bringing technology to our learning environments have been critically important. Those investments and pivots are not going anywhere. Let me say that again. The adaptations, pivots, and modifications of adult education that we have made over the last 12 months are here to stay, even when COVID-19 subsides. So, taking a look at the GIF on the screen, maybe we actually do need some roads, or at least a pathway to help us succeed. Sorry, Doc.
Okay, so this is kind of the pathway that we have taken. As Kathleen said, our classrooms have changed. The traditional classroom is basically non-existent, And we've been forced to move our classrooms online and change our expectations of our students. This is kind of how it has changed through the last year. The synchronous class is how we survived in March when our world stopped. We all scrambled to learn how to Zoom with our existing classrooms. We met live during our scheduled class times to keep moving forward with our content, and many of us are still teaching this way. Some of us have transitioned to the asynchronous format that does not meet at all. All the work is delivered online with teacher direction, but no live interaction. This is not new, but has become utilized more in the last year. In the fall, Waubonsie decided that we were safe and we could come to the building. And so in the fall, we implemented the hybrid classes. And this is an option that's between the synchronous and the asynchronous. There's face-to-face instruction, and then there's also an online component to each class. This is currently how most of our classes are running right now. And then we have the flex classroom, and that is why you are here, to learn about what this is. So the word that describes it is, this is a polysynchronous class. And so what that means is that students are allowed to meet face-to-face. They may also Zoom in online, or they can watch the recording after the class. The beauty of this is that they have this decision to make every day. It's unique. And in that way, if, for example, they happen to be out of town, or they can't find a babysitter, or it could even be that they look outside and it's raining and they decide they don't want to get in the car, they can still join our class with no penalties. So, as we've also moved through this pandemic and we've had some new tools put into our belts, the learning management system, something that is not new, but it has been a very valuable resource as we navigate this new teaching arena. This pandemic has forced us to streamline our delivery so it's accessible to students. Having a learning management system in place keeps the class organized and the students focused. Zoom, we all know about Zoom. It happens every day, sometimes 4, 5, 6 times a day. Not only have our classes moved to Zoom, but our meetings have, and even get-togethers with our friends and families. I know last Easter we Zoomed our holiday. And after this pandemic, it subsides, most of us are still going to Zoom. And we think now, what did we even do before we had Zoom? The DotCam, it's also not new, but it's essential now as we're teaching from home. I didn't know that there was a portable DotCam that you can plug in your laptop and you can transfer all your documents to your Zoom class. This tool has allowed me to do math problems just like I would do in a classroom. And it's made the Zoom classes so much nicer to teach. So we've had so many changes in our teaching instruction, and we should all really be proud of our ability to adapt and succeed through this time. The flex classroom is another change. This option is great for students. Like I said, it allows us to continue teaching in the building, but it offers remote learning for those who are uncomfortable to return to campus. And that's really how this all started, was let's make this safe for people so they can still take classes and Zoom in, but not have to come to campus. But we have found through doing this that it's not just the uncomfortable people. This is something that people that just have another obligation, or they're busy and they're tired at night, they can still join our classes. So it has been really, really nice for our students. It's also benefited the teacher. We have, learned so much about ourselves and our teaching, and we've learned how to solve problems that we never even knew existed during this time. The Zoom class is a place, this flex room, you could be teaching to an empty class. And that's really not all that bad. There are teachers that maybe they teach online and they would like to come into this flex class and use all the technology and not have a student in the room. So it serves that teacher as well. Not only do the students and the teachers benefit, but our school benefits. The number of students that we register can increase. Onboarding is so much easier when students don't have to decide, oh, should I do face-to-face or should I do online? They can have the best of both worlds. Many times, I know students come to class and they hear the attendance obligations on the first day and they say, oh, I can't do this. I have a trip, or I have surgery, or something is happening, and they end up dropping the class. This flex opportunity gives them the option of still having their surgery or still going on that trip and being able to take a class. So it has changed. I have to admit though, that walking into the Flex classroom on that first day felt a little bit like this.
Houston, we have a problem. Walking into a classroom with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screens, plus a whiteboard, plus a computer or a camera on the ceiling and a projector, it's a lot. We went through training to learn how to use our classroom, but I still chuckle when I see this image because the first time I walked into our Flex classroom and I saw all these screens, this is exactly what I thought of. So to our dean, we know you're listening. Please feel free to add aerospace technological expert to our titles after these last few months. Just kidding, sort of. But like our students, we are having to take in a lot of new information and learn many new skills very quickly. Taking on a Flex classroom can be humbling, very humbling, but extremely rewarding. Just like the successes that our adult learners are experiencing every single term. Remember, when our students, especially our math students, especially our novice math students, walk into our classrooms, they bring with them a backpack full of materials and a body full of fear and anxiety. How many times have you heard your students say, math is hard, I'm not good at math, or my favorite, I can't do math. They walk right in with it. Honey, you can, and you do, and not only are you going to, but you'll think it's fun, believe it or not. Learning to use technology splits your attention between face-to-face and remote simultaneously. And it's a good reminder of what our students feel when they come to us. We as the math instructors or the reading instructors or the ELL instructors, we are so used to being the subject matter experts, tinkering with new ways to convey that knowledge effectively to our student, new activities, new manipulatives, innovative ways to bring learning to our classroom. But it's not so often that we experience that same struggle or that same anxiety or that same growth that our students have when they enter the classroom with us. Learning to teach in a flexible classroom, a polysynchronous classroom, has given me a moment to feel what my students feel. And that empathy is gold as an educator. You guys are experts. You definitely know what I'm talking about. So, what does the adult math learner need? Well, there are 3 key ingredients to being successful. They need reassurance. This is that encouragement factor, the you can and you are doing this. They need guidance. That's the part where we say, let's do this one together. Now try it with your neighbor. Finally, try it on your own. That's scaffolding. And finally, and maybe most importantly, they need a safe place to make mistakes. My favorite thing to do is to make the mistakes myself and ask my students to find them. Sometimes on purpose, sometimes not. But is there anything more rewarding as a teacher than when your student notices a computational error and points it out? That's gold. Don't shy away from that. Don't be embarrassed by that. If that happens in your math classroom, when you regrouped in subtraction incorrectly or you made an equivalent fraction that isn't quite equivalent, congratulate those students on their conceptual understanding. We all make mistakes, even us experts. The Flex classroom will give you a great opportunity to make mistakes at first. But you'll learn and you'll get it, just like your adult learners do. And it will feel really, really great. So let's talk about those mistakes with a little bit more specificity. What kind of mistakes and pitfalls have we, Barb and I, encountered in our short time using these Flex classrooms? Now remember, we started using these after winter break, so in January. So we are coming off of 1 complete term and we're about to jump into our next quarter starting on Monday. Well, I'm a little embarrassed to admit this, but accidentally exiting the Zoom was my first major error. That would be like if I just pressed end meeting right now and all of you went away and had to log back in. We have a little small control panel here in the front of the classroom on our desk that allows us to toggle between the Zoom controls and the document camera and the computer, just like you probably have in your classrooms, with some added controls to let us adjust camera angles and the meeting controls. It's a touch screen in our technology, and it was not very long until I accidentally ended the meeting for everyone. It was about 20 minutes into class. It's a 3-hour class. I learned to give students a disclaimer that if I accidentally end the meeting before our class session is over, and especially while I'm in the middle of a thoughtful transition or a sentence, that they are to return to their LMS, their learning management system. For us, it's Canvas. For you, it might be Blackboard, Google Classroom, something of that nature, where I have posted our Zoom meeting link, and just go rejoin the meeting. I'll be back in a moment after I pick my pride up off the floor and dust it off. Barb mentioned the use of a learning management system earlier. And if your program does not yet utilize one, or has it on the back burner, just something there in the background on your college website, thought of as something that the credit side uses, but that's not really for us, I highly encourage you to unleash the power of those systems. If you're using a Flex Classroom, having a one-stop shop for your weekly assignments, your activities, and your course content, like the link to your class Zoom in this case, was extremely useful. So that is the first way that I messed up. The second way that I made mistakes was by freezing the document camera or accidentally turning my materials upside down. These document cameras are outstanding. They're really, really good. They're very high definition, and you'll see the wrinkles and the age spots and the cuticles you didn't know you had. You know what's not so fun? Accidentally freezing the document camera and seeing your own aging fingers magnified 10,000 times on the screen in front of you, and knowing that 20 of your new friends are getting the same view. Flex, like I said, is very humbling, let me tell you. Also, department chairs, you may consider budgeting for paraffin treatments and manicures, just saying, it's not that expensive. Finally, muting yourself. You're teaching a class to a group of people who are here in the room in front of you, but there are still a community of learners who are at home, and they need to be able to hear you. So that has happened to me as well, where I have muted myself, and because I'd had so many screens in front of me, I struggled for a little while to figure out how to fix it. Letting your students know up front what to do if they can't hear you is really helpful. Sometimes students will blink their camera on and off so that it gets my attention and I can tell that something's wrong, and then I'll look down in the chat and I'll see. But if I'm just teaching along and I don't realize I've muted myself, it might be a while until I look at the chat. So think of some creative ways that your students can let you know if there's a problem and they need to get your attention. They also can unmute themselves in a traditional classroom with me. All right. Your students are making mistakes all the time, especially in the math classroom, especially if you're at the lower NRS levels like 2 and 3, even at the entry level to 4, when things kind of take a steep turn towards difficult. We need to model making sense of our problems as they arise, and we need to demonstrate perseverance and problem solving. We need to demonstrate perseverance and problem solving. You mean mathematical standard for mathematical practice number 1? Yes, exactly. That applies to your math classroom, but it also applies to life in general. Like Amber likes to tell us, math is a way to solve problems in everyday life. That's what you're doing when you're learning how to use a Flex Classroom. You're learning how to solve problems in everyday life, and you need to model that perseverance in problem solving for your students if we expect them to do the same thing when we present them with something that's hard. All of my standard proficiency instructors and beyond already recognize this. You have a real life opportunity while using this technology to practice what you preach very authentically. I'm going to turn it back over to Barb now, where she will explore the strategies to make using flexible technology in your classroom more valuable. Next.
Okay, so strategies. So we have, whoops, oh darn. Okay,
Okay, there you go.
so we have found some strategies that have worked for us, things that have made the Flex Classroom easier for our students. And first of all, Zoom. Zoom is nothing new, but the beauty of the Flex Classroom is that the technology is embedded in the classroom. So basically the classroom literally turns on when class starts. We don't have to do anything. We do set the meetings, but we come in and everything is on. The cameras, the mics, everything. The class is automatically recorded, and the instructor can choose how they want to record each individual session. For example, what I do is I record each direct instruction lesson. So let's say I'm teaching about percents. I will start my recording and do my direct instruction. And then I will stop the recording, give them work time, start it up again, and so forth. So when they watch the recordings, they're in smaller increments, 20, 30-minute little increments instead of one huge class session. Now you can do it the other way also and just guide your students to where the next lesson is starting. The other thing that is nice is the recordings are available to view within the hour. By the time I get home, which is a 20-minute drive, my class is already up and running and I can watch what the viewing of it. The recordings are also closed captioned, so anyone with a hearing or learning problem can view all of our lessons with ease. The chat box and discussion threads are strategies that help us keep connected to our students. We use them in a regular Zoom class, but this is especially helpful for students who are joining from home. They're not here, they're not in the classroom. So this is a way for them to be connected to their classmates. The Flex Classroom is filled with flexibility, which maybe that's where it got its name. The instructor, we have the ability. We can use the document camera, the desktop, the screen, the whiteboard throughout the entire class session. The focus can switch back very easily, and the multiple classroom views will help the students feel like they're part of the classroom. Also, the students in the classroom can join the Zoom class and see their classmates at home, although they do need to make sure that they mute because we don't need to have the microphone recording them in both ways. Of course, they can see their classmates if they turn their cameras on, which, as many of you know, students choose not to a lot of times. Kathleen and I have been teaching from the Flex Classroom for 2 months. So that's basically 8 weeks, 8 classes. We've done 8 classes from the Flex Classroom. Has it all been smooth sailing? Absolutely not. And Kathleen gave you a bunch of examples of how that has happened. We've experienced many, many snags, but it's really been good for us to work together with our students, for them to see us facing problems, to see us figuring out how to solve it. And I think that sometimes that's the best lesson that we can teach them. So I have to say, and I think Kathleen would agree with me, that overall, this has been a really good experience. Right?
Having the opportunity, Barb is absolutely right, to pilot this technology for our department has been an honor, but it's been really an incredible experience. And with every week that has gone by, we have felt more and more a sense of urgency to bring this technology into our department in as many classrooms as possible, all of them if we could. And as we look at our curriculum and we try to redesign it once again in this new pandemic and post-pandemic world, our first answer is, what's the best modality? Flex, 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 flex. That is the best modality for our learners. Thanks. So Flex is here to stay. COVID forced us to make changes with technology, but this teaching environment is here for the long haul. And honestly, it really would have been a big help before the pandemic too. It's a huge advantage for our program. And I would imagine it would be an advantage for your programs too. The ability to reach students where they are, both academically and geographically, will help with retention and accessibility moving forward. We've talked about some of the pitfalls and the features of using flexible technology in our classrooms so far, but the big question yet to be answered is why? Why do we want this? Do we really even need this? How is this going to be valuable? It's expensive. These are great questions, and they're the same ones that I had before I agreed to dive into a flexible learning environment back in January. Barb and I have had the privilege of piloting the use of the Flex Classroom for our college's adult education department. We've only been using it for a few months, like she said, yet here we are at a statewide conference eager to advocate for this type of technology for your adult ed statewide teams as well. The reason for this is very multifaceted. To put it bluntly, this technology keeps students enrolled in our classes. The adult learner comes into my classroom with a plethora of other responsibilities that could prevent them from attending at any time, not just COVID. They have jobs, often or usually more than one. They have children to care for, parents to care for, and they're already struggling to carve out several hours a week to come to campus and attend class. Even getting there can be a problem. These are challenges that extend far beyond the COVID-19 crisis and are challenges that won't be subsiding for our learners anytime soon. If anything, they've been amplified. One of my students that I had this quarter had diligently attended classes in person. She liked to learn that way, but around the 5th week, she suffered a back injury where she would be unable to drive for a few weeks. She sent me a text, sad that she'd have to drop from my class, and she hoped that she could resume next quarter. I reminded her that because she was part of my flex class, she could continue to attend remotely from home. She had thought that she had to pick between the two, coming in person or attending from home. And she didn't realize that she could adjust her schedule as she needed week to week as the term progressed. Not only was this student able to finish my class from home, but she was able to progress to the next NRS level. I would have absolutely lost this student in the traditional classroom pre-COVID, where face-to-face instruction was the only modality. She would have been gone. This student preferred face-to-face learning. It's where she felt she was most successful, and that's why she had decided to come to my classroom most weeks. But when faced with an unexpected hurdle, like so many of our students have, she was able to clear it and continue toward her educational goals without any lapse or gap in time, which would have given opportunity for her to never come back and also lose that content knowledge she had been working so hard to achieve and gain during her tenure with me those 5 weeks. Flexible classrooms offer retention, and they aid our students in meeting their own personal high school equivalency goals. To the administrators watching here today, retention means more attendance hours acquired and the ability to add another student into the pool of those eligible to post-test for level gains. This allows our programs to remain funded. And as crass as it may seem to put a financial qualifier on student success, the truth of the matter is that without funding, our programs won't last. Finally, for any credit side administrators out there listening, the more students we can retain and progress through adult education, the larger the pool for entry into credit and certificate programs. College and career readiness, those standards exist for a reason. Flexible classrooms give students autonomy over their education in a way that we have never seen before. They require a development in digital literacy, which is something we once had to literally schedule into our syllabi each term. When are we going to the computer lab? Well, flex classrooms make that ingrained. And our programs finally have the opportunity to become progressive, not reactive, which is something that has been long overdue. We've been scrambling to meet a need after need as it arises for a decade. With the implementation of flexible classrooms, we anticipate more needs than we can imagine and offer a solution for our multifaceted, diverse learning community. Finally, from an intake perspective, enrollment. Student onboarding becomes seamless. No longer does a student need to make a decision in advance of classes starting about whether they want to be remote or face-to-face. They can have both, and they can change their mind as often or as little as they like or need. We hear over and over again that adult ed works, and it does work when we invest in the tools and skills of masterful educators with phenomenal technology. And that needs to come from the top down. Our administrators need to be advocating for this technology in as many classrooms as possible in the credit and the non-credit side. And you should be asking the state for that funding as well. My esteemed colleague over here would also like to share her personal experience with this technology in her NRS 4 math classroom. Barb, take it home.
Yeah, okay. So I've had a couple just experiences that students that have happened in my class that have been, really helpful with the Flex Classroom. I had a student that started in January. She was there on the first day, face-to-face. Her plan was to come face-to-face at night, and her mom ended up in the hospital. And so since she works during the day, she only had evenings, and she only is able to be in an evening class. And so she was able to join the class every single night from the hospital. If we would not have had this option for her, she would have definitely had to drop because there was no way that she could come to the class. I had another student who normally comes face-to-face, and one day she decided to Zoom, and of course it was the day of the midterm. And as I had gone through how we were going to take the midterm and their different options, she was like, I'd really kind of rather take that in the classroom. Can I come over? And I said, sure. So she got in her car, and 10 minutes later, she was here ready to take her midterm. So this was something that gave her the opportunity to take the test in the format that worked best for her. So as you can see, we have so many experiences in the short 8 weeks that we have experienced the Flex Classroom. So can you even imagine how many students we can service with this quality education or this quality technology if we can continue to have more classes and have more teachers feel good about trying this new classroom? So overall, this flex classroom may have evolved from an educational need to explore meaningful instruction due to COVID. And I think that COVID was really what started this. But what I've learned is that this need is more than just adjusting to a pandemic. This is a solution to create learning options for all students in all walks of life. So this classroom is here to stay. So what we'd like to do is we have a surprise for you. You are all in a flex classroom. And looking at us, you might say, well, it looks like we're just in a normal everyday classroom, but this is set up to be flex. So we are going to share with you some of the different views and give you a tour of what this classroom actually looks like. So.
Stop sharing.
Okay.
Can we make us big here? Oh, great. Can you guys see us now?
It should be the same.
Give us a thumbs up if you can see us.
Okay, good.
All right.
All right,
Excellent.
awesome. Okay.
So,
There we go.
welcome to our flex classroom. As you can see, Barb and I are standing here in the traditional front of the room, and you can see that we have quite a bit of technology in front of us. This little box here, you might have one on your desk when you're teaching live, where you can switch between your document camera and you can switch between that and your projector, if you're lucky enough at your program to have that technology. Not all programs do. But you also have a computer on your desk, and you have a secondary screen that gives us the opportunity to see where all of this, see all the Zoom cubes that are showing up. But there's more than that. Let me go the other way. We also have, up on the wall, you can see that we've got a projector hanging from our ceiling. And this is our projector that connects to our slideshow that you were seeing. And beyond that, we have a really, really big television screen that shows everything that our students can see. So when we were sharing our presentation earlier, we could see our presentation, and that's how we could know that our presentation was working properly. Now we can see some of your names and some of your faces and some of your backgrounds, and we know what you're looking at. Now it's a regular classroom for the most part. Let me turn the camera down a little bit, and you'll notice you have really broad control over the room. And it takes a little bit, obviously. So students can visit our classroom, and they can bring their own laptop. And in the Flex classroom next door, it's a computer lab. So every single seat has its own computer there. I often encourage my students to attend class and bring their laptops with them or borrow one from our computer lab so that they can join the Zoom even though they have decided to attend class in person. And the reason that we do that is so that the students who are at home are not on an island isolated from everybody else. They're engaging with the students who are here in the classroom. They can participate in the conversation. The students in the room can see their classmates on that big TV I just showed you, and they can engage together in the chat. I often will have students say, working on something on their own, maybe it's a problem that I've put up on the screen, and then I say, okay, when you think you've solved a solution, direct message me in the chat and tell me what you got. And it's a quick way that I can assess, do a quick formative assessment of where my students are on any particular standard. Now, beyond just this widescreen view, which is nice to show you all what the classroom looks like, but if you were taking a class with me and I was writing notes on the board, that would be maybe a little bit hard to see. Easy to fix. Our classroom, the camera is remarkable. It can zoom into a variety of wide angle and front of the class and whiteboard views with one touch. And then beyond that, I have the ability to zoom in as close or as far away as I want. I'll just leave this one here for just a second for you to take a look at. Adult Ed works when our administrators and our state invest in masterful educators and leading edge technology. We're going to keep saying that over and over again while we have 1 hour of your undivided and totally muted attention. All right. Now, Now, you heard me talking about the document camera. I'm not going to end the Zoom. I'm not going to do that because I'm very aware of it now. You'll only make that mistake once or
Once,
twice, maybe twice. But what I'd like to show you now is how cool our document camera is. It's higher resolution than I would almost really prefer it to be. Okay, so let's do this, share, start sharing. Okay, so I'm gonna zoom out. We've just put up a little Dr. Seuss little jingle up here for you to see. I will teach you in a room. I will teach you now on Zoom. I will teach you in your house. I will teach you with a mouse. I hate to admit, but I hope I never see a mouse. Like I really do. I hope I never see a mouse. I'll end the Zoom if I see a mouse. I'll teach you here and there. I will teach you because I care. So just do your very best and do not worry about the rest. So it's very high resolution. See, look at my hands. You
Lovely.
can see every wrinkle and cuticle and I mean, it's really high def. It's like when you first got your first HD TV and everybody looked crazy on television and their makeup was all bizarre. It's like that. So if you zoom out, the technology is really neat. I'm going to tilt the camera so that you can see the controls down here. You see, I've got this cool little swirl bar to make everything big and small, but on the screen, I can see exactly what is being projected. So there's never any confusion about what do my students see. I'm never saying, can you see this? Is it okay? Because I have a screen right there that lets me know. This little snowflake right here is how you freeze the screen. If I press that, then now you can, I'm waving my hands all over the place right now. And if you unfreeze it, you can bring it back in. That's a really cool tool when you're using the document camera to work out problems by hand, because you can write a set of problems or have a photocopied set of problems, and you can say, okay, take the next 5 minutes and work on these 6 problems, and then you can come back together and unfreeze it, and magically all of the work appears so students can very readily check their work, especially helpful during the times like warm-up when students are entering your classroom. Some come a little bit early, some come a little bit later. One of the other mistakes that I had mentioned earlier was turning my documents upside down. That looked like this. It took me a good 5 or 6 minutes, which felt like 5 or 6 years to figure out how to turn it right side up again, but I did. So it's really just a very, very neat tool. And I bet that one of the questions is probably about cost for the technology. And what that includes is, and the one thing we can't show you is that there's a camera mounted into the ceiling that has a microphone embedded into it. Our classrooms pick up the sound right away, but if that microphone breaks or something goes awry, we also have these little microphone packs that I'll show you right here. We have these little microphone packs, so it's like you're on a talk show. You clip it to your lapel, you turn it on, you tuck it into your, it has like a little belt thing on it, and you tuck it into the side of your skirt or your pants or, you know, whatever, and you're good to go. And you just, you know, clip it right on. You don't have to wear a headset and look like you're like a super gamer. I mean, I guess you could if you wanted to, but I think that this is pretty neat. I felt like, you know, Ellen DeGeneres, pretty nice. So you've got that technology. Then you can share your screen like you've seen already. The camera control is really great. Let me stop my share here. So the camera control, you have complete control over what everybody is seeing. Or like I said earlier, I can switch straight to the whiteboard with one click, or I can go to that wide shot with one click, or I can go just to the front of the class so the students are getting, they can see me moving around, they can get the full wide range. Barb and I have really enjoyed teaching in these classrooms. I have a much larger roster than I had last quarter, but I know that my room can handle it because I know some students are going to choose to be online and some are going to choose to be here in the classroom. What I noticed last quarter is students who started in the classroom, as they got more comfortable and confident with their math skills, sometimes they felt like, okay, now I can take a step back into the remote learning world because they felt like they knew how to do it. They also had me here for technical support if they needed it. Using Canvas, our learning management system, has been an outstanding way to aggregate all of our information together, including helpful tips for what to do during Zoom or how to download Canvas onto your phone so that you can be a remote learner literally anywhere. The takeaway message here is that, yeah, this is a $25,000 piece of equipment. It's money well spent. It is money well spent. Mike, we are ready for some questions. Back on our share
I don't
screen.
see any questions in the chat. If you would like to ask some questions in the chat. Being involved with the Illinois Digital Learning Lab and helping organizations purchase equipment similar to this, this is great. This is just some really good information. Your classroom is awesome.
Yes, it is.
We agree.
So Anita asks, can you talk about how you handle tech issues for students who are at a distance?
Sometimes we can give a student the ability to share their screen with us so we can see what they're seeing at home, and then I can help them walk through those tech questions step by step. I've also noticed that when it's a tech problem, there is always somebody in the class who is like he's like the AV person who knows about how to do stuff, and they are all, it's like, I have one student, his name's Dylan, and I've had him for 2 quarters, and he is always my one who volunteers and says, okay, let's troubleshoot it. Have you tried this or have you tried that? And it's like, the students come together in this community because they all are struggling together. And so when one of them has found a trick that works or that's helpful in solving a problem, they really want to share it out. They really want to type it in the chat. They really want to let their peers know that they have something valuable to add. Dylan has saved my butt a couple of times.
And we have been really lucky this term because the IT, there's
Yes, we have our faculty
they're
development
here and they help us.
And not only are they
Whatever we
here,
need.
I mean, Eamon has been he's even on our call this afternoon in case anything were to go awry. We really do have a wonderful faculty development team that is really at our beck and call. When I say I'm having trouble, can I Zoom with you real quick? When they say real quick, it's within moments. See, there's Eamon right there. He's been phenomenal. And we have even made him a co-host today, just in case something got messed up.
But it hasn't, so it's been really good.
hasn't,
Yeah.
but we know it's there. It's there in a heartbeat. I was messaging with Eamon last week and I said, I'm really having trouble setting up the Zoom for IASA. There are a lot of requirements and I'm not sure how to set up the registration. He was like, okay, sure. I opened my email and sure enough, there was a link right there. So having that, again, that administrative support, that collegiate support for not just saying, okay, here's the money to buy the technology, but saying, okay, as a college, we're going to invest in being a progressive learning community that's going to meet students' needs they don't even know they have yet. That's what this kind of technology is investing in. That's a good question.
Awesome. Thank you. I have a question from Kathy. She asks, can you break down a little bit the $25,000 costs? What costs?
I wish I could, but that is not, I'm not an administrator. So that budget line item is not mine, but I can tell you the things that you're purchasing. You're purchasing a high definition visual presenter document camera. You're purchasing a Crestron, what do we call this? Command center. You're purchasing a ceiling mounted camera with embedded multiple microphones with full 365-degree pivot. You're also purchasing, I believe it's a
the TV.
You're purchasing a Sony document projector. You're purchasing, how many inches is that? I don't know.
It's got to be 50.
It's got to be at least 50 inches.
at least.
It's a TV big enough that you'd be excited if you won it.
Mhm.
That's mounted up onto your wall. And you're purchasing, if you don't already have the drop down projection screen, as well as an additional monitor to be able to see all of your students and what's happening on your Zoom on your desk. So those individual components are what make up that $25,000. And obviously, I mean, we're not experts in the variety of technology that is available that meets this particular need. I am absolutely sure though that the ones that we have in our classroom are not the only ones available on the market. I'm sure that this is a competitive and becoming more competitive market as time goes on and as colleges and high schools and maybe elementary schools, K-12, have needs that need to be met more flexibly. That's a good question too.
Yeah, and the document camera, was that an Elmo?
This is an Elmo,
Elmo,
yes.
yes.
Mhm. It's a PX-10E.
Those cost about $900, I can tell you.
It's gotta be the best out there.
Yeah.
It's
really
honestly,
good.
it's too good. We have ones that are not as good, or not as new, I should say. They still work.
Yeah.
But they're not as fancy and sleek and high definition and touch screen and all of that. And these are just really remarkable.
Cool. Marcia asks, I saw an app on my iPhone that is a dot cam. Are you familiar with it, and does it work?
Marcia's been teaching from home.
Is it a portable doc cam?
Well, she didn't say.
Oh,
but-
okay.
So I have a portable document camera. It's not an app on my phone, but it's something that plugs in via a USB. I got it at the beginning of the pandemic. It cost me about $99. I plug it into my laptop and I've got an instantaneous document camera that I can share my screen on Zoom at home and I can use my little document camera. It's nowhere near as good as the document camera that we've got on campus here, but it definitely got the job done when we were forced into remote learning around the holidays at the end of 2020. And when we were starting to teach after we shut down for our initial 2 weeks last year. I have not used the app on my phone. However, I have seen multiple ingenious educators who have rigged things up where they join Zoom on their phone and they've got their cell phone on sort of like a wooden stand or something, and they have it pointed face down over whatever they want to share. And so they also join their Zoom meeting from their computer. So they're joined from their phone and they're joined from their computer, and then they share what the phone is doing so that you can see what's going on. I mean, you should see some of the like chat rooms and Reddit threads and of teachers trying to figure it out and work together and come up with a way to meet student needs, which is also why we're so excited about this technology, because this is like it. This does it all, and it's easy, and you don't have to like go down into your basement and build something to hold your phone and hope that nobody calls you while you're in the middle of your class and mess it all up. It's not as precarious.
Okay, awesome. Peggy writes, I teach remotely. I give 2 types of math assignments on Canvas and assignments that I email. For the assignments I email, they send me photos of their work, and I find this much more useful than Canvas, where I can only see their answers. Do you give Canvas assignments in a way so that you can see their work?
Well, let's see. I do the same thing. Goodness. I would encourage you, first of all, to get your students to download the Canvas app, because then they can take pictures of their work and upload it very easily. I told you all my screens are cats. I really wasn't lying. See if I can remember which class I had that in. I did one where I do a discussion thread, and I find a discussion thread to be pretty helpful when we're doing work. Where was it? Was it week 3? Excuse me while I try and find it. One of the ways that I use Canvas to have them showing their work is to have them using a discussion thread where they have to create problems for one another to solve. This is one of them where I created it, where I have something up on the screen and I share it with them when they're coming in, and then they are replying into a discussion thread below and they're explaining their thinking. And that's a big part of the direct instructions there, is that please, tell me what your choice is, but explain why you think that that's the best choice. And so a student can come in and you can see I have explain your thinking in the discussion thread. So they want to go to this Taylor Swift concert. Jason really loves her. The ticket costs $75. And he's got a bunch of different ways that he can earn money. And we want to know how he can earn money the fastest. So they have to do a multi-step word problem and figure that out. And then they can click on their reply. And just like you're saying in Canvas, they can answer a question, but they also have to explain like, well, why do they think this? And it's like, okay, well, because dog walking is going to take too many days and he might miss the concert. And yard work is going to be the fastest one because he's only going to have to work for X number of days, and laundry would be the middle one, or whatever the case might be. When I've given midterms and quizzes, I agree with you actually that it's harder to use those to assess what they're actually understanding because you are only seeing like a multiple choice answer. But the benefit of using something like that, it's a double-edged sword like most things, is that when the students get to their GED, they're going to be taking it on a computer and they're going to be having multiple choice questions. So you can pivot your instruction to be something that's focusing on test taking skills and how to eliminate correct and incorrect answers as part of your review of the content once you go over it as a larger group. So hopefully that answers your question. I have them take pictures of their work and either upload it or text it or email it to me as well, because when I want to see quickly, where did you make a mistake or where are you going wrong? I absolutely agree that that is the best way. And if they download the Canvas app, that becomes a lot easier and they can just upload it straight into Canvas into your inbox. Any other questions? That was another really good one. Oh, I can see Sandy's got a question. How are you entering attendance into DAISY for flexible students? We are extremely lucky here at Waubonsie that we only have to report our attendance hours and we have someone who enters all of our hours for us. Now, that being said, we're teaching in a flex environment and it's hybrid. So they meet with us 1 day a week for 3 hours, and then they have 3 hours of learning that they have to do asynchronously on their own. And there are a variety of ways that we measure that asynchronous learning. One is that if they are doing something that is like a quiz or a test inside of our learning management system, inside Canvas, we can see exactly how much time they spent. It's recorded. They took 2 attempts, they spent this many minutes. Another thing that we're using is we use outside software, particularly TABE 1112 Academy, and I can see a weekly report of how much time my students are spending in there. And then finally, when we're assigning things like worksheets or workbook review or something I've posted in Canvas, like a discussion thread like that, we're the experts, we're the math specialists. We have a good idea about how long it takes our adult learners to complete those tasks. And so ahead of time, we assign a learning time to those tasks. And if they've completed the task, then they've earned that learning time for attendance to be entered into DAISY. And then finally, the class is 3 hours long. And if you attend the class and you're here and you're engaged in learning, you get those 3 hours for attending class just like you would face-to-face. The other thing that we haven't done yet, because we've only done it once, 1 quarter, we record all of our classes and then we upload them into Zoom. I'm sorry, we upload them into into Canvas, and students can see our class recordings anytime they want. Oh, whoops.
The one thing that we haven't done yet is, as far as their credit, they have to be here for the flex class and they have to complete the 3 hours of online work. And we haven't come to the point where we figured out how they can't just watch the recording at this point and still get their credit. So we haven't figured that out. If that might be something in the future, I don't know. But right now it's available to them, but it's actually not considered their attendance.
Right. And that's not to say that it couldn't be. I did have one student who had to have a surgery on the day of class. And he said, can I watch the recording tomorrow and let you know? And then I was able to go in and see that he did watch it. You can also do things like throwing keywords into the middle of your class. If I just like all of a sudden said banana and then the student had to get to the funny word I said and let me know what that funny word was.
So I did put the session eval link to get your certificates in the chat. Oh, here they are. They're back.
All right, we're back. I'm so sorry. See,
That was us that did that. It
That
was our-
happened.
It was our class.
the room was scheduled for 1 to 2 p.m. 2 o'clock hit and the room
And
turned
it went
off.
off.
We have like 1 more minute.
So we were able to rejoin. So when I was sharing my screen before, you were able to see that I have a recording of one of my previous classes, and students can go in, they can see, and they can, it's all
Great.
closed captioned, and they can go to any point in the lesson that they want. You
You.
can see
The
I've got
nine.
my students who are asking questions,
Now
and
nine
I'm
becomes
sharing
my
my
student.
screen. What,
That one will double or show,
what,
okay,
this?
this one.
What?
Well, that one will show
Oh, there we
two,
go.
yeah, right.
So you can see I've got a student, I've got a student at home, and then they can see my notes on my document camera as I'm working through content. And the coolest thing is that when they want to go back and review a piece of material, it's all closed captioned for them right there. And I'm not having to do anything. It's just happening for me. And as a teacher, that is a very rare experience where things are just happening for you and you're not having to like hem and haw and do it yourself. No kidding, when this pandemic first started and I was creating a YouTube video and uploading it onto my Weebly website for students, I was sitting there transcribing my own closed captionings and uploading them. It took forever. So this is really
Very nice.
delightful that it happens so quickly.
Well, thank you so much, Kathleen, Barb. Great presentation. If you could stop sharing your screen for a minute, I just wanted to leave everybody with one more IASA business kind of slide here. Excellent. Okay. So I'll start telling you what's on the slide. April 15th is our legislative day, which we will obviously be taking virtually. And I would like you all to attend. Keep your eyes out for more information on that. Hopefully we will try to get you to send us some videos, students and instructors, administrators, to shout out to our legislators. Division meetings coming up April 30th. So once again, watch your email for registration information for this and the awareness day. Please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and visit our website, iasa.net often. And hopefully we will see you at the bingo event sponsored by Burlington English coming up at 2:30, I believe. And thank you all very much for attending.
If I could just add one last final thing, I just got a
Sure.
text message on my phone that one of my Flex students just passed his math GED. So it works, guys. Invest in this, please.
All right. Thank you, guys.